Welcome back, True Seeker. The World Series is set. They're already calling it the Kendrick Lamar-Drake World Series, and it will begin on Drake's birthday. The Toronto native. Of course, the World Series is going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers in Toronto. And again, you guys learn Gematria. The first team we circled for this year's World Series was Toronto. And that's because Blue Jays equals 121. This is the 121st World Series. There's no other team in the 30 teams in the MLB that have a 121 connection other than possibly LA. And that's because L's the 12th letter of the alphabet and A's the first. So LA is 12-1, kind of like 121. Dave Roberts sure had the alignment for the World Series, though. And recall at the beginning of the year, I talked about Octavio Dotel's death and how it was a sacrifice for the World Series. Dotel did play for the Dodgers and Toronto in his career. He played for a lot of teams, but the two teams in it he both played for. You'll recall Octavio Dotel died in the nightclub collapse in the Dominican Republic 121 days from Juan Soto's date of birth, and Juan Soto had just celebrated his record contract at that nightclub. They did bait us a bit with the Mets, though, this year. The Mets were a little bit of a letdown. If you go back and look at my work on Octavio Dotel, I showed you how his death had a lot to do with the number 83, the number of murder, and the Mets finished the year with 83 postseason wins, who Juan Soto now plays for. But again, you guys, Gematria, you learn it, you see how rigged the game is. And I did just put out a short video on George Springer's go-ahead home run and just how scripted the moment it was, or how scripted the moment was, and what a tribute it was to his old team, Houston, who beat the Dodgers in the 113th World Series, and also to what's going on Monday Night Football right now, where Houston's playing Seattle. But I'll get back into that. What I want to talk about in this video is, again, just the things that happen year after year with these rig sports, the ritual sacrifices, and how seemingly nobody really seems to notice or care. That's why I get annoyed when everyone's like, oh my God, did you see what happened to Charlie Kirk? It's like, I don't really care what happened to Charlie Kirk. Why don't you care about this when all these other young guys die? People from the world of entertainment around Charlie Kirk's age die all the time. I mean, there's like a few every single week. And again, we know what the difference is. You know, the news story, they made a spectacle about him being murdered. And did it even happen? There was no crime scene. His body was loaded into an SUV. He works for Trump, one of the most dishonest people in the history of the world, who faked his own assassination. But anyway, as I've said for years, these young athletes are getting murdered for these rigged sports games. And what's been my theory the whole time? What's the same theory I've put out there about who's doing the murdering? Because I think they gave us a big clue with one of these deaths here in recent days. Doug Martin, yesterday when the news broke, there wasn't any mention of the police involvement. But then this morning, the story evolved to, oh, yesterday he was just dead. He's just dead. Like a lot of these celebrities are dead and there's no explanation. But then today it evolved into, oh, he was in some kind of a resisting arrest with the police. And then the whole story just sounded like a load of BS. And then he had some medical emergency and died. Again, the reason I say my theory has been that the cops are, and again, it's not to say that every police officer's in on this, but the reason I think it's the police who are murdering these athletes, like there's some kind of like, I don't know. Remember, you guys, here, think about all the components here as I get to this point. If anyone thinks this sounds like a wild theory, let's put all the pieces together and see why I've been saying this for so long. First of all, the song Murder by Numbers was put out in the year 1983 by the band The Police. And one of the members of that band, his daddy's in the CIA. Okay, so The Police did the song Murder by Numbers, where killing is the sport of the elected, and it's as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3. So that's one major clue, that the band The Police did the song Murder by Numbers, singing about how fun it is to kill people, how you can make a hobby out of it, how it can become addictive, it's so fun, and how you do it by the code of ABC is 1, 2, 3. So that's clue one. Clue two is, who gives us the reports for all of these celebrity deaths? They always come from the police. Sometimes the story is that the police went to do a check on the person and found them dead. And I always say, like, why were the police even checking on them? How many times in your life have the police come to check on you? Because that's a common detail in a lot of these stories. The police went to do a routine check to make sure everything was okay, and they found the celebrity dead. He had died in his sleep. He slipped in the shower. So again, we've been, I've been here for over 12 years now talking about this stuff. And I said, and then it's just, it's the police. I mean, here to make a point, the most violent thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I was a child. I was about probably 8 years old. I was playing football with the neighbor boy, and he was a year younger than me. And I threw him a pass, and it hit him in the face, and he went crying to his dad. And funny enough, his dad's last name was Cop, COPP, and he was a cop. He was a police officer. And his dad came storming out, and he picked me up by the neck. He said, "You hit my son in the face." And I was like, I threw him the ball, and he didn't catch it. I mean, good God. So, I mean, you look into the stats on cops. The most beaten women in the world are beaten by their husbands who happen to be cops. The most abused female group in the nation are the wives of cops. So, yeah, there's a lot of scumbag cops out there. Consider that a lot of cops are in that secret society called Freemasonry. Secret societies, keeping secrets. How many Hollywood movies have they made about really corrupt cops, murderous cops? I know the British filmmakers, they put out the movie Filth about Freemason cops who murder people and then solve their own murders. If you haven't seen that movie, Filth, it's out there. So, yeah, if you think my theory that the cops are the ones killing all these celebrities is crazy, maybe it's because you're a moron. Maybe remember this one next time. Doug Martin. Just a story that just sounds like a total load of shit. Like, the story doesn't even make any sense if you guys have taken the time to read it. And that's not how the story started yesterday, but that's what it evolved into today. He was resisting arrest and then he died. So, yeah, and again, here, what's the over-under? Here, let's put the over-under at 2.5. Are there going to be under 2.5 or more than 2.5 deaths from the world of entertainment and sports by the time the World Series ends in a little more than a week? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Is there going to be less than 2 or more than 2? Because I'll tell you what, personally from experience, I got to take the over. Last year, how many were dead the day that the World Series began? I think we would hit the over just on the day of Game 1. Remember how last year they had the last time the Yankees and the Dodgers faced each other? Fernando Valenzuela and what's the other pitcher who he faced in the World Series? The two pitchers that faced off against each other, they just both happened to die like right before the World Series began. Yeah, nothing suspicious there. It's all just a coincidence. And by the way, the other thing I want to say before I even get into decoding this crap is I get sick of you morons who keep saying, "Zach, you've been doing this for so long and you still haven't just figured out this is how the universe works." Dirt. No, I don't think this is how the universe works. I don't think just the universe just picks off young black guys day after day, week after week. I don't think that's just the universe. No, I think you're a moron. That's what I think. I think this is murder by numbers, like they made a song about, a movie about, a TV show about. I don't think it has anything to do with the universe. No, I think it has to do with really sick, demented people, secret societies, maybe some kind of blood magic. Maybe. I mean, I have seen some weird stuff that's hard to explain, but again, I mean, this right here, we think that's the universe. Look, for all you guys who think the universe just works a certain way and everything's predetermined, why do you think these companies advertise? If these billionaires that run the world and have their real estate on every corner, don't you think if they just understood, they must know it all. It's just, what's the point of advertising? What's the point of advertising and marketing or doing anything? Do you understand why I'm asking you that? Just think about it, because some of you guys just think just everything just is going to unfold exactly how it is. So then why are mega corporations out there advertising 24/7, 365 to get their brands in your mind. So you think about their brands and change your behavior. And next thing you know, you're eating more of their food or buying more of their stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Again, too many guys have this like religious, nonsensical thinking that doesn't jive with reality. Again, I don't feel like I suffer from that same problem. I look into facts, research, information, pay attention to patterns. Again, that's why I think my theory about the police is pretty good. And I think this latest Doug Martin death, and it's not to say that every last celebrity death done by the police, they could have hit squads out there as well that are probably former police and military. But I do think a lot of times it very well might be certain officers in certain departments. But anyway, again, how many times do they say these players are found dead in a car accident? That doesn't even make any sense. And that whole write-up's from the police. That's another reason I've been saying it's the police a long time. I don't even think these people died in the car accident. I think they... Anyway. Before the Yankees lost games 6 and 7 in Toronto, they had to let you know that the former Mariner, Jesus Montero, had died at age 35. And you'll notice that more often than not, these people who are dead, they're not white. Occasionally it will be a white person, but not very often. It's probably one white guy for every 10 darker complected people. If you pay attention to the statistics as we go through the many seemingly obvious sacrifices, but he's dead, and then the Mariners season is dead. And notice Montero, his surname equals 35, like his age of death, right? And this news did break 35 days after the Pope's birthday. Pope Leo's born September 14th. This news broke yesterday, October 19th, Sunday, 35 days after his birthday. Same reason we had Chicago, which equals 35, to win their game yesterday, as Caleb Williams improved to 9-14 in his young NFL career, like the Pope's birthday is 9-14. You should have seen how many rituals they did with the Cubs in 9-14. Again, you got the Chicago Pope. But yeah, Montero dead 35 days after the Pope's birthday. And yeah, the Pope matters too, because again, the Jesuits served the Pope, were on the calendar, made in tribute to the Pope. A lot of this stuff, it goes back to the hierarchy. But also they had to break this news on the 19th, Seattle 19, right? Jesus Montero, former top Yankees prospect, dead at 35 after motorcycle accident. And again, you can see that he played 1 year for the Yankees, 4 for the Mariners. I'll take you back to 2001. Mariners had the best record in baseball, got beat down by the Yankees. I remember betting my roommate $20 on the series. He was so confident the Mariners were going to win. I said, no, man, they put the Yankees in the World Series every damn year. How are you going to bet on the Mariners? You know who took that 20? Anyway, they said that the accident happened October 5th, and they pulled the plug on him 14 days later. The word dead for the record is 14, end is 14. October 5th, the day of the accident, was the day the Mariners won their first game in the 2025 MLB playoffs. And for the Mariners, this was almost like the World Series. They've never been closer to the World Series. The Mariners have never been in the World Series. And it's crazy. Like I'm out here in Washington State. Man, everybody and their mom bought a Mariners hat, you guys. I mean, I was in the gym tonight. Everyone was in their phone. They were all excited while the Mariners were up. And I was just thinking, I was like, just give it a few more innings. These people are going to be depressed as hell. You want to know how scripted it is, you guys? Look at this. Here, let's just pull it. Here, I'll just show you how it all went down. Learn your gematria, you guys. Toronto. You see how it's 117 with the simple cipher, 72 in reverse? Dan Wilson, the manager of the Mariners, who's the former catcher. And, of course, this year the big storyline was their catcher. But Dan Wilson just stayed on 117 career wins. Toronto just stayed on 72 losses for the year on the day, leaving 72 days left in the year. And the 36 is signaled that it's more complicated with the pitchers, but it signaled that the Mariners weren't winning tonight. And the Mariners stayed on 23 postseason wins as George Springer hit his 23rd postseason career home run. Again, the Blue Jays are the only team in the MLB that equal 121. And I want you to think about this too. For all you guys who think because you have 4 ciphers, you can make anything add up to anything. When I write out Toronto, right? When I write out Blue Jays, when I write out no, I'm just calling them Maple Leafs. When I write out Toronto Blue Jays, the Maple Leafs are the hockey team. You see how, so for every team, there's 12 numbers associated, right? And then if I included the stadium, you could say there's 16 numbers associated. So I just want you to think about this mathematically. There's 30 teams, right? They each have 12 numbers associated. So that's 360 numbers for the whole league. Only one of the 360 add up to 121. And obviously that is less than that's a tiny fraction of a percent. Again, when you hear some dope come along and be like, oh yeah, gematria, like, yeah, 4 ciphers, so anything can add up to anything, just realize that's a total moron talking who doesn't know anything about anything. Blue Jays, only 121 team in the league in the 121st World Series. And the only other team that you could even argue is close is LA, because L is the 12th letter and A is the first. So L is 12, A is 1 to go with the 121st World Series. And they're in their 25th World Series in 2025. But yeah, Jesus Montero gets in an accident for the Mariners postseason when they pull the plug on him and the Mariners don't win any more games. And now their season is over. Like Jesus Montero's life is over at 35. And again, it was 35 days after the Pope's birthday. Catholic 35, Jesuitism 35, Holy See 35, Chicago 35, just like why we like the Bears yesterday. And by the way, Mike Ditka better look out, because Mike Ditka turned 86 the day before the game. And of course, he coached the Bears and the Saints, and the Bears were playing the Saints, the most Catholic team in the NFL. For Caleb Williams become 9-14, like the Pope's birthday. All right, Jesus Montero. So RIP. Now, the next RIP is Doug Martin. He's 36. You know, these are pretty young people here. These are pretty young people. Okay. Do you remember how the NFL began the season with Cowboy Carter's birthday is the day it began. September 4th, Beyonce, right? It was her 44th birthday, and the guy with the 4-4 birthday, Jalen Carter, whose name equals 44, who went to Georgia, 44, spit on Dak Prescott, 44. And then we ended up having a lightning delay in that game with the score 24-20, 44 points. And they stopped the game with 4:44 left in the third quarter, like Jay-Z, Beyonce's husband, has the 4:44 album. So the reason I bring this up is because Doug Martin ends up dying 44 days later, and he dies on October 18th. They broke the news yesterday, October 19th, but he died October 18th, 44 days after the season began. And we've talked about this many a times, how October 18th, 10/18, remember, the Catholic Church gave us the calendar, and they did sync up this system of letters and numbers and dates and Bible verses, and that's why we're pointing this stuff out all the time. But in Luke 10:18, that's where Satan comes to earth in a bolt of lightning. Okay? So 44 days after the season began, this guy's dead. And, he played for Tampa. In light of all the sports being connected, what's the NHL team called in Tampa? Aren't they the Lightning? Is that the Tampa Bay Lightning down there playing NHL hockey? But here's what else stands out just about in light of this ritual. Doug Martin equals 122-50. And, that night you had San Francisco go on to win, and San Francisco won in Sunday Night Football, and they have the connection to Tampa Bay because Steve Young went from Tampa to San Francisco, and the current GM of the 49ers, who was John Lynch, who played in San Francisco, and that's where the Church of Satan was founded. And satanic also equals 122-50. So, again, just looking at how the whole theme of how all this stuff works together. They announce his death. And keep in mind, he's living in the Bay Area, right? He's living in Oakland, they said. He died in Oakland. So, the day of the announcement, you got primetime football in San Francisco. And just for the record, the 49ers kept home teams on 46 losses for the year in Levi's Stadium, which equals 46, like sacrifice. And they picked up the 59th home win of the year over the team from Atlanta, Georgia, which is 59. And they picked up the 12th home win in prime time, where SNF is 12. But okay, so Doug Martin, dead 44 days after the season began, after it began with this major 44 ritual. And let me see, was there something else about it? Oh, yeah, just the fact that they come out and say, the police officers were involved. Just remember, their officers 44, police states 44. Donald Trump, the 44th person to be president, despite being number 45 and 47 because of Grover Cleveland's split term, is helping usher in the police state like no other. And all the dopes are running around with these mega hats, the highest degree of the Church of Satan, when Obama told us on the 45th birthday of the Church of Satan, with Trump in attendance that night, April 30th, 2011, 45 days before Trump's birthday, that Trump would become number 45. And Barack means lightning. Here, just to read this. Details are emerging regarding the shocking death of former Buccaneers running back Doug Martin, with the East Bay Times reporting his passing came while in police custody. Martin passed away on Saturday morning at the age of 36 after police were responding to a 4:15 a.m. Eastern Time home break-in in Oakland, California, allegedly involving Martin. There's probably a reason they reported it as 4:15 Eastern Time. That means it would have been 1:15 local time. Just for the record, 1:15. Killing, 1:15. Masonic, 1:15. Lucifer, 1:15. You follow? Let me spell Lucifer correctly. Lucifer. Okay. Mason, again, think Fraternal Order of Police. So 4:15 East Coast is 1:15 in the Bay. Martin was reportedly already having a medical emergency, and then a brief struggle ensued. By next week, they'll say he was on fentanyl. The former Buccaneers and Raiders star allegedly resisted arrest when police attempted to detain him, became unresponsive, and was transported to a hospital where he later died, according to Oakland's local Fox affiliate. Police did not specify why they detained Martin, and it was unclear what the medical emergency was. After he became unresponsive, paramedics arrived and he was taken to a hospital. It is with great sadness to inform you all that Doug Martin passed away Saturday morning, the family said in a statement. Cause of death is currently unconfirmed. Martin's cause of death is still under investigation by multiple law enforcement agencies. I'm sure they're going to put out the truth, you guys. You can always trust the police to bring out the whole truth. The officers involved in the incident were put on administrative leave, as is protocol. Martin was selected number 31 overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tough number this year, 31. Charlie Kirk and beyond. Remember what they just did with Charlie Kirk on the anniversary of the 31st Superior General being installed for the Jesuits? Overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2012 draft, and ran for 5,356 yards in his 7-year career. So drafted 13 years ago, 31st pick, 13 is the 7th Fibonacci number. Martin played 6 of his 7 seasons in Tampa. They had to get in the 6-7 meme, right? Of course, blood sacrifice, human sacrifice, satanic. They're all 67. Killer 67. Just talking about this with the 6-7 meme, what it's all really about. Again, whole opening part of the song before it says 6-7 is all about killing. We are deeply saddened to learn of the sudden and unexpected passing of Doug Martin, the Buccaneers sent a statement. From his record-setting rookie season in 2012 to his multiple Pro Bowl selections during his 6 seasons as a Buccaneer, Doug made a lasting impact on our franchise. Like over half the people in pro sports, he went to a Catholic high school or college. He also went to the Boise State Broncos, and again, there's a major theme with horses this year. But he went to St. Mary's High School. St. Mary's 74, dead on the day, leaving 74 days left in the year. Again, killing is 74 and 115, and it happened at about 1:15 a.m. local time. Just think about it. Also dead, Warren McVea, Chiefs Super Bowl IV winning running back, dead also in the news yesterday. And no, we've talked about the name Warren before. It has the exact same gematria as murder in every cipher. In all 4 base ciphers, alphabetic order with numerology, reverse alphabetic order with numerology. Warren equals murder, and he's dead at 79. And he was, to read what it says, the NFL is mourning the loss of former Super Bowl winner Warren McVea. Or is it McVea? I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it. McVea or McVea? McVea's family, or is it McVea, confirmed to Houston Football and NFL.com on October 20th that let's call him Mick, the first black player to receive a football scholarship to a major Texas school, died at age 79 on Sunday, October 19th. So he played at Houston, okay? Yesterday, the day that he died, was 112 days before the Super Bowl, right? And this guy's a Super Bowl champion. He won Super Bowl 4. Chiefs won Super Bowl 4. He was the running back. So 112 days prior, Houston won 12, Chiefs won 12, Super Bowl won 12. You know, again, Houston now has the Texans. In history, the Dallas Texans became the Kansas City Chiefs. This guy, first black player with a scholarship, played at Houston. NFL played for the Chiefs. Again, one more time, Dallas Texans became the Kansas City Chiefs in 1963, the year of the JFK assassination. Today, the Texans team is Houston. And you guys might recall Houston Texans' first ever NFL game. They beat the Dallas Cowboys. I remember it like it was yesterday because my buddy was a Cowboys fan. I watched that game with him, and I had a feeling his Cowboys were going down. I can't remember if we made a bet on that night, but I just remember how miserable he was. And I was just, man, he's just National Fix League. I was already convinced back then that sports are rigged. I think it was my freshman year of college. Might have been my sophomore year or somewhere around there. It must have been my sophomore year because I think we were in our apartment. But okay, he wore number 6, right? Is there a certain guy on the Chiefs who could go to his 6th Super Bowl potentially this year? Because I'm pretty sure his name is Patrick and his last name starts with an M. Pretty sure he'd go to his 6th Super Bowl this year. And I'll tell you what, you guys, it's possible. It's possible. You see how Christmas equals 133? Just like football. Just like government. You see how they're all 133? Same with president and White House. They're all 133, right? And the reason it matters is because the Constitution was born on September 17th. And then 133 years later, the NFL was born on the same day, September 17th. And now Mahomes, he was born on September 17th. That Patrick guy. If the Chiefs keep winning, they're going to end up 13-3 on Christmas. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. So anyway, the Houston thing, right? Houston, the small waist, 31. Tonight, ESPN put up a stat before the game that if Seattle won, they'd get their 31st win on Monday Night Football. Tonight, George Springer, who went from Houston to Toronto, who used to play in the same division as the Mariners, who just put the Mariners season to bed. He stepped up to the plate. I just knew it was coming too. I was sitting there with my mom. I was like, oh, watch this at bat right here. I could just smell it. It was so obvious. Runners on second and third. George Springer, who hits more home runs in the postseason than anybody I've ever seen in my lifetime. It was just so obvious what was coming because we already know the numbers, man. I mean, the Mariners and the Tampa Bay Rays are two teams that finish with 4-3 scores all the time. Mariners 43, for the example. Tampa Bay Rays 43. In this case, it was in Ontario tonight. Ontario 43. Sure enough, just, breaking ball right over the plate. Springer, boom, meat of the bat, it's gone. I mean, he just knew it was gone the minute he hit it. And something I think they do in the MLB to ensure outcomes, first of all, you can have cork bats that add distance to the ball. And something else that you can buy out there are different cores for balls. I mean, you could take apart the ball. You never be able to tell the core was different, but the different winding of the ball inside can create a huge difference in how far the ball flies. So this is something I think the MLB is doing personally to ensure outcomes. You need the home run in that situation. Make sure he's up to bat with the right bat and make sure you got the ball with the right core. But anyway, George Springer hits the 3-run home run to put him up 4-3 over the Mariners in Ontario in the deciding game where they win the series 4-3. And again, over the weekend, who was playing each other in hockey? Of course, you had Seattle and was it Friday? No, it was Saturday. You had Seattle in Toronto, and the score was 4-3, signaling that this was going to go to Game 7 and be a 4-3 series. And like I said, tonight in the NFL, you have Seattle playing. Seahawks are up on the Texans going into just about into the fourth quarter. You guys, this is the 108th game of the NFL season right here. 108. Again, Major League equals 108. 108 double stitches on a baseball. Seattle versus Houston. Again, George Springer's played a lot of games against Seattle in his career because he spent the majority of his career with Houston. And Seattle and Houston are in the same division, the AL West. And then again tonight, and by the way, Astros is also another 43 team. You know, he played on the Astros. He won the World Series with the Astros over the Dodgers 7 years ago. That's the one where Vice News wrote the hit piece on me. Here's Vice News making fun of me for teaching people about rigged sports in Gematria 7 years ago. Wacko YouTuber approves World Series was rigged. You know what's funny? USA Today took down their article that they'd had up since 2016, about 6 months ago on me. They finally took it down off their website. But yeah, the video comes courtesy of a guy named Zachary K. Hubbard, and he is convinced that everything is rigged. And then look at the author's definition of everything: news, politics, weather, sports, everything. That's not everything. And yeah, I proved my point that all these things are rigged. And here we are in 2025, where the Air Force put out the document in 1996 owning the weather by 2025. Again, the reason he had to put that in here is because I'd explained in August why the Astros were going to beat the Dodgers in the World Series, and it had to do with the La Tuna fires and Hurricane Harvey flooding Houston, and Matt Harvey being the first pitcher to pitch in Houston after the flooding of Harvey. And it just, it's just, Harvey was the first pitcher to pitch in Houston 52 days before the World Series again. Flood equals 52, and hurricane equals 52, and Harvey flooded Houston on the 239th day of the year, the 52nd prime, which is August 27, 17, a date with 52 numerology. Anyway. Coming back to this, if I didn't say so, Mahomes won his game 31-0 the day of this man's death. 31. Think about what 31 is, right? It's 4 in numerology terms. 3 plus 1 is 4. This guy won Super Bowl 4, scholarship to Houston. Look how many times Chiefs have put up 31 on the board, or had 31 put up on the board against them in the Super Bowls they've been in the Mahomes era. But yeah, Chiefs won yesterday 31-0 over the Raiders. 31-0. And we liked the Chiefs to cover yesterday. They were a huge favorite, 12.5-point favorite. I thought they might win by 15. They ended up winning by 31. It was Mahomes' 15th game versus the Raiders. Mahomes wears number 15. And I did notice that Warren McVea equals Houston Texans in both ciphers. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, he also did wear 6. And this guy, Mr. Mahomes, is trying to go to his 6th Super Bowl. You know, the year of Super Bowl 54, remember Mahomes won Super Bowl 54 and 58. 58 was the 54th of the modern era. The modern era is always -4. So like this year will be the 56th of the modern era. Super Bowl 60, but those were the Joe Montana Bulls. Anyway, I just want to remind you about how before he won Super Bowl 54, 112 days before he won that Super Bowl was the episode of the HBO's Ballers. By the way, home box office is 54. Home box office run by a bunch of Jesuits, Jesuit Order 54. But yeah, if you go back and look, the episode of Ballers came out 112 days for that Super Bowl where The Rock buys the Chiefs. Rock, former football player in Miami. That's where the Super Bowl was that year. The Rock played for the Miami Hurricanes. Okay. So yeah, something to think about. Major ritual, obviously, major death ritual. Not every death ritual means you're winning the championship, but there's some specific numbers in here that are just going, that is pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. And another guy, really not that old, WWE star Robert Horn, a.k.a. Sir Mo, dead at 58. I didn't do much of a decode on this because, I mean, I've been here for a decade saying how every time one of these WWE guys is dead, it's some huge Masonic ritual, and Vince McMahon's a Freemason, and In this case, he's dead at 58, which also means he's dead in his 59th year of life. And we all know about the 59 code with black men. I wrote a book about this. Slave, Negro, Blues, Rasta, they all equal 59. Motown and 59. Black History Month ends on the 59th day of the year. But he died in Dallas, okay? He died in Dallas. And Dallas obviously had a big win yesterday. Division rival Washington beat them 44-22. We know 44 is a number of killing. But I noticed that in light of this guy dying in Dallas yesterday, I remember American football is credited to the Freemason Walter Camp. I just noticed his name equals 102 like Cowboys. So I was like, they have a big Cowboys win. A not so old black man from the world of wrestling, which is literally linked to the NFL. If you guys haven't noticed, the NFL has been talking about their partnership with the WWE, and in almost every game, they're advertising some WWE event. We all know when they win the Super Bowl, they give the guy the belt that looks like they're in wrestling. I mean, how many times has Mahomes in recent years held up the wrestling belt after he won the Super Bowl? So, again, just knowing how all of this works, you just got to say, what are the odds? Big win for the Cowboys and a big celebrity death in the city the day of. And yesterday had 74 date numerology. October 19th, 2025, 10 plus 19 plus 20 plus 25, 74. Sir Mo, 74. Dallas Cowboys, 74. And, fateful number too, killing 74. How many times can we talk about? 3 of the first 5 presidents dead on 7-4. Ides of March to remember the killing of Caesar on the 74th day of the year. Again, the only physical description of Jesus, another big 74, Jesus 74, like cross, like Messiah, like gospel, like parables. The only physical description of Jesus describes a man with skin like burnt brass and hair like wool. And just to be fair, biblical's 58. King James, who has the Bible named after him, dead at 58. Jesus, the Son, the story spread by the church that worships the sun in the sky, which we call a star, the team with the star on the helmet, has a big win, and another star's dead at 58. Star, 58. Stars, the plural, 58. Zodiac, the thing with all the stars in it, 58. Gregorian, the calendar synced up with the zodiac, 58. So, R.I.P. to Sir Mo. And notice everybody's got a tan, right? Jesus Montero, he's got the least of the tan. Doug Martin's got more of a tan. Mr. Warren has a tan. Sir Mo's got a tan. Day after day, week after week, the same old stuff. And again, we'll see how many more there are in the days ahead with the World Series getting underway. Now, as for this AWS internet outage, which is troubling things, this happened right as it ticked into October 20th. October 20th. The majority of the world writes today 20/10. So 20/10. You see that 201 sequence in there? Remember when we had the world's biggest tech outage in history on the 201st day of the leap year? And of course, that had to do with the CrowdStrike update on Microsoft Windows machines. Again, this outage had to do with everyone that's on Amazon's web hosting service. A lot of people, when they think of Amazon, I've said this a million times, they only think about how they sell stuff. But Amazon really makes the majority of its money through its web hosting and government contracts. And Amazon's one of the key players in developing the surveillance state, making a lot of the most sophisticated camera technology, facial recognition technology in the world. But don't forget, Amazon was established in 94. If you didn't know this, Bezos equals, or what is this? Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos equals 94. Seattle, Washington, 94. 94 was the year that Bill Gates had his breakout year, the Playboy interview, and he became famous that year. The most famous guy in Seattle to start 94 was Kurt Cobain. Bill and Melinda got married January 1st, 94. Kurt Cobain died 94 days later. He also died 206 days before Bill Gates' birthday in Seattle. It's the 206 area code. But again, Bill Gates' mom died in 94, and then in 2020, when Cooties was going on, his dad died at age 94, kind of like the Seahawks won their only Super Bowl in the 94th NFL season, and then Russell Wilson's grandpa died at 94. And don't forget the whole Cooties scam. The actual name of it was 94, and it started in Seattle for the U.S., the first confirmed case in the world, across the street from Bill Gates' Big Needle. Anyway, so yeah, just 94 was the year that Amazon was established, if you didn't know that, which was also Bill Gates' breakout year. And the point I'm just trying to make is, like, who's really behind this puppet show? Again, the church, the same one that gives you the calendar and the language and really runs the show. But by the way, if you don't know, Seattle is one of the most Jesuit cities in America. And again, that's the military order of the Catholic Church. But it was the 201st day of the leap year that we had the biggest outage ever. And today was bad too. It just wasn't quite as bad as this one, but it was bad. And just to remind you, Bill Gates' full name's 201. July 19th in the leap year is the 201st day of the year. Order of Illuminati's 201, like the Jesuit order. And again, the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt founded the Illuminati, and Adam Weishaupt died in history 201 days after the anniversary of the Illuminati's establishment. And when this happened, it was 266 days after Bill Gates' birthday, which is the Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, and the 266th Pope was still alive at the time, and he was the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, whose birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 201, but also equals 111, like he eventually died on the 111th day of the year, which is Rome's birthday. And when this crazy outage happened, Bill Gates was 68 years old. And again, Seattle, Washington is 68 as well. And so was CIA. And the CIA was established on the 201st day of the Pope's age. And don't forget the words in the CIA's logo: Central Intelligence Agency, United States of America equals 201. And the CIA's motto, the work of a nation, the center of intelligence equals 201. And the CIA has the statue outside called Cryptos, which is about this letters and numbers and encoding system, right at the CIA's front door. So, yeah, it was also 53 days before the World Economic Forum, run by the Jesuit Klaus Schwab, until he just recently retired the day the Pope died. Pope hadn't retired yet. Klaus Schwab was still in charge, but that was 53 days before their upcoming cyber, power outage simulation thing. And of course, Microsoft 53. And from Leave the World Behind's release to this thing happened, because the news compared it to that, was 241 days, which is the 53rd prime, going back to Microsoft. It was 251 days after the Superior General's birthday, which is the 54th prime. Again, the Jesuit headquarters is the Church of the Jesu, Building 54. So, I pointed out it was 111 days after Klaus Schwab's birthday, but I didn't put out up his name equals 111. Computer and air are both 111. So is Klaus Martin Schwab. And remember, he retired on the 111th day of the year, the same day the Pope died. Klaus Martin Schwab, 111. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 111. Same day the Pope died. Rome's birthday. And don't forget what they did with all the area codes. The acting head of the Vatican after the Pope died became the Cardinal in Dallas, which is the 214 area code. Like the 21st of April can be written 214. And then the Pope died on the 312th day of Trump's age. And then The new pope became the first American pope from Chicago, the 312. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Wasn't there one other thing in there? Oh, yeah. And then the Pope also went to school in Philadelphia, the 267 area code, and he's the 267th Pope. Yeah, so it's just another 201 thing. And it just goes to show you how we're just tinkered with, you know? It's like these are some kind of practice runs for something much bigger. Oh, 201's up, you guys. We gotta play with the human guinea pigs. And it's obvious that's how they look at us. The crap in the food and the water, stuff like this, day after day. People higher up on their pyramid, you know, they get to play in their sports leagues, be in their movies, their TV shows. When their numbers up, they off them. Sometimes they're very young. Sometimes they get to live into their 80s like Robert Redford, Gene Hackman. But yeah. Sick stuff. And nobody ever talks about it. That's just amazing. Just all these social media people that get all this attention and they just don't talk about anything. I saw the dumbest video come up in my feed and it just had all these views and I was watching it and I was just like, why do people watch this stuff? I mean, God, do they not value their own time? Or and then I remember mine, like, oh yeah, I know why they watch it. It's because they're stupid. That's right. That's why everybody falls for all this. It's why nobody looks into anything and they just believe all the bullshit that's fed to them every day. They're dumb. These people are dumb. So anyway. Shout out to Tara with the big 99 cents. I appreciate it, Tara. Thank you so much. I think we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. We are almost an hour and I got to wrap this thing up. So thank you again to everyone who hits like and the share. Thank you to everyone who does come around here who isn't dumb. I wish more people weren't so dumb, but what are you going to do? I guess we'll just try to keep teaching and see if we can pull more people out of whatever they're, I don't know, whatever's wrong with them. So, but yeah, just remember, you guys, the over-under set at 2.5. Are there going to be more or less celebrity deaths than that by the end of the upcoming World Series? Like I said, last year, opening day of the World Series, there were more than that just in the day of game one. So anyway, RIP again, once upon a time, or RIP to Sir Mo, RIP to Mr. Warren McVea, or is it McVea? If it's I'm gonna have to look up the way they pronounce his name, because don't forget they just, you know what? If his name is pronounced McVea, don't forget what the whole 79th NBA season was about, right? Again, that was another one we had before the season began. We said Seattle Sonics won the championship in 79. They're now the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder win the 79 season. And they paid all those tributes to Timothy McVeigh all along the way, who was executed in Indiana. And, of course, the NBA is tipping off tomorrow. Go back and look at the June 11th game. The Pacers won with 116 points on the date we were in 11/6. And that was the anniversary of Timothy McVeigh being executed for the Oklahoma City bombing. Not to mention the NBA playoffs began on April 19th. So, yeah, I'll get back to you on that. And you can look it up in your spare time, too. I bet somebody in the chat's been trying to communicate how you actually pronounce the name. But if it is McVeigh, you guys, McVeigh had a lot to do with the 79th NBA season. Again, won by Oklahoma City, where the bombing happened back in 95. I got to check some out real quick before I sign off now that I'm thinking about that. 2025 NBA Finals. Last game, June 22nd. Let's see something real quick. Whoops. I don't know what's up with this. That needs to be fixed on this website, how easy that thing runs. Isn't that crazy? 119 days after the Thunder won the finals. Remember, McVea was put to death 3 months before 9/11. Oklahoma City was the most shocking thing until 9/11 happened. Majority of the world writes that date 11/9. The other thing about 119 is it's the 88th composite number, and Oklahoma City Thunder equal 88. So it's just like Trump, Trump's Mr. 88, and they called the election for him the first time on November 9th, 119, and this time he takes office with the 119th Congress, and he's Mr. Tarot Cards 119, 78 in the deck. He's back in office at age 78. The top cards in the tarot deck are Trump cards. Today he trumped some justices because he won his appeal, and now he can deploy the National Guard to Portland to make it more of a police state. Look how perfect it is, too. Portland 44, Rip City 44. That's Portland's nickname. I would know him from there. Police state 44. His first time around, he deployed his secret federal police to Oregon for the first time ever. Oregon's the 33rd state. Federal 33. National Guard's also 137, the 33rd prime. And don't forget what I showed you about the full name of ICE. It equals 503, like Portland's the 503 area code, and they've had the longest ICE protest in the 503 area code, Portland. But yeah, National Guard has that 137, 33rd prime connection. Don't forget when Trump deployed the National Guard to California. It was the first time in 33 years that it had happened, and the last time was over the Rodney King riots when Rodney King was beaten by the LAPD on 3-3. LAPD 33 like police, like masonry, like secrecy, like order, like federal. A nation. And that's the thing that just annoys me too about this nation. I mean, almost everywhere you go, small towns, big towns, the Masonic Lodge is right next to the police station and nobody questions anything. Prominent secret society at the beginning of this nation's country. There was an anti-Mason party. By the way, look into the leader of the anti-Mason party. He disappeared on September 11th. Go figure. Disappeared on September 11th of all days. R.I.P. Never to be seen again. But yeah, I mean, seriously, the police station's right next to the secret society place. You don't see the conflict of interest. You don't see where my theory came from a long time ago about how the police, I think, are the ones that are, in a lot of these cases, doing these athletes and these celebrities dirty and then writing the report about it. Yeah, we responded. An anonymous tip told us to check on their house, and we found him in the shower. He wasn't breathing when we got there. He died of natural causes. He was unresponsive. And just all the shit we've read over the years, like, what? Died of natural causes in his sleep at age 25? Really? Really? 25-year-old dies in their sleep. I mean, come on. All right, True Seeker. Yeah, we will leave it there. Thanks again, everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time.